How do you guys feel about like mega churches and shit like that?
Tax the hell out of them. Churches should not be exempt from taxes. We should tax churches.
I don't know enough about why churches are tax exempt and things like that. Seeing people like the mega church guy have like a mansion and 12 cars and a private jet and stuff like that, it feels not right. Your job is to be like taking money to spread the word of God and stuff like that. It just feels a little greedy to be, using all that money to like increase the quality of your life.
For our next topic, is being a billionaire ethical? We had a conversation on Discord, and our Discord page, if you haven't known, we have a Discord channel. Go there. We can chat it up with all of us.
Check that out.
It's in the description.
It's called the One Up.
I take a hot pic every day for everyone. Yeah.
I haven't seen that happen yet.
Neither have I.
Those hot pictures are as real as Jesus been going to the gym.
Damn. And we're talking about eat the rich, man. Pretty much like being a billionaire, like should they have any moral, should they just try to help out the community more, pretty much? Pucho and our good friend and friend of the pod, Adam, going back and forth, and it was a very interesting conversation to read. And Pucho, shine a little bit of light on the back and forth between you and Adam and the different points.
Yeah, so there's a group of people that feel like being a billionaire makes you inherently evil because nobody should have that amount of wealth, and there's so much more uses that other people could do with that money. Most of the people that feel that way are like communists and socialists, right? So there's also the added like they're evil because they exploited people to get there to that amount of money.
I agree with that heavily. I don't think that it is possible to become a billionaire without having some exploitation factor into it, unless you're just straight inheriting billions or something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends how you define exploitation. Like, but yeah. So there's people that feel that way. There are people that feel like billionaires should do more, like they should give a lot of their money away and stuff like that. And then there are people that feel like, no, being a billionaire is totally fine. They worked hard to make their money and they made their money and they should enjoy it. Or there's other people that feel like there should be laws that make it harder to be a billionaire or impossible to be a billionaire, and the laws will force the redistribution of wealth and it not rely on the goodwill of people. You know what I mean?
That's what I thought taxes were for, but apparently no.
Apparently, if you have enough money and you know the tax code well enough, you can pay as little taxes as you can get away with.
Yeah.
There was another one you guys said too, Pooch, that that the wealth should be evenly spread amongst all social or financial classes.
Well, there's like the different takes on that, right? Because there are like communist and people that have more socialist leanings that do believe that the wealth should be redistributed equally and things of that nature, right? Like there are schools that thought like that, but in general, the wealth should just be redistributed to society at large. Not necessarily everyone gets a check from this billionaire's bank account or something, but like it's an insane amount of money. Did y'all click that link that I sent you that was basically like giving a graphical representation of what the actual richest people in the world's wealth looks like? It's insane. It's a mind-breaking, even $1 billion is a mind-breaking amount of money. Like, it's so crazy to see it like actually visualized like that.
And it's crazy how they would value their billions versus like the millionaires and then the rest of the world. Like, that's why they said the true 1%ers, because those are the ones who can literally, like, I don't even know. It's still crazy to be like, I can't fathom just buy the $100 million thing like if it was a fucking #1 on Burger King. Like, that blows my mind. That's a lot of fucking money. Filthy rich. That's what that is. That's filthy rich. But yeah, I don't think wouldn't it affect the value of the money though, of the dollar? Like if we just spread it all evenly, like
I mean, no, because if like the Treasury Department decided tomorrow to print up an extra like $3 trillion or something and spread that amongst the population, yeah, that would devalue the dollar. That's where the idea of like inflation and things like that come from. Your dollar is losing value, but it's existing money in the system. So no, like it would not cause like crazy inflation. What it might cause is some supply and demand weirdness where people are buying a bunch of stuff because they have money. Like if we did like just a redistribution of wealth. But like Adam was talking about some of like the historical stuff. He brought up Caesar. Like one of the Caesars, like he canceled all debt. Like there's steps that have been taken historically whenever there is this amount of wealth held by this tiny percentage of the population to kind of reset things a little bit more, to normalize things a little bit more.
Man, I wish.
I mean,
and there's also guillotines and gallows that have been, used previously whenever there's been huge amounts of, inequality.
So
Yeah.
you're on the side of that the billionaires should do more for the community, or are you more on the side of making it harder for them to be a billionaire?
Both, honestly, because even if we passed a law tomorrow that made it harder to become a billionaire because of some kind of super complex tax plan that closes loopholes and taxes people properly and blah, 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 right? Even if you did that tomorrow, like you're not fixing the problem of billionaires today that are just hoarding wealth. Like that inequality is built in. Honestly, it's going to get worse because the people that already are billionaires and sitting on that amount of money, if you make it harder for other people to get to that level, the gap gets bigger.
The gap. Yeah, you only made the gap bigger.
So you're gonna have to break down their wealth, then hit them with that make it harder.
I don't know. It's a complicated thing. I do know that I don't think that it is possible to be an ethical billionaire. I don't know what the solution to it is. I think that there's probably some kind of tax rewrite that has to happen, some kind of tax code that needs to be redone. I think it's crazy that the Supreme Court shot down this student loan relief thing that is a step towards relieving some of the economic disparity in the country.
Because
do you know why they shut that down? I didn't read the decision, like what the rationale was behind saying
I read it and it doesn't make any sense. It has to do with the HEROES Act that was passed that gives power to gives the Department of Education power to mess with loans and things like that whenever there is a national emergency that could cause financial distress. And their reasoning is that the COVID-19 pandemic didn't meet the criteria for what this act actually covers. That's the interpretation that I got. But that's crazy to me because the COVID pandemic definitely had a financial impact on people. People were losing their jobs and unable to work and things like that. I don't know. Like their reasoning made no sense to me. But I'm also not a law person. Like I'm not a lawyer. I'm not even an expert in bird law. So I have no idea.
I'm all for student loan forgiveness or whatever, but there were, at least during the pandemic, there were for large periods of time, no one had to pay their student loans. Like it wasn't forgiven, but the repay, like no one was forced to make payments during that period of time. So like, I feel like at least that's like one way they like addressed the pandemic or whatever. But yeah, getting back to the eat the rich thing, I personally don't believe that being a billionaire in and of itself is inherently evil. I feel like we have rules in society. Society is set up in a way. And I feel like if people go out and get their money and do business decisions and all this stuff within accordance to the law, I mean, I think it's fine. I feel like the law should be different, right? I just don't think that someone is a bad person for playing the rules of playing the game, like, starting a business or whatever the hell they need to do to become a billionaire. I don't think Oprah or Jay-Z is inherently evil for being billionaires, or Kanye West. Like, he's a piece of shit for a lot of reasons. I don't think being a billionaire is the reason he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, that's why I'm stuck in the middle too. If I become a millionaire and then all of a sudden get this crazy deal and whatever business that I have makes me a billionaire, doesn't make me evil. Like maybe I should find a way. I think I would help the community out too. Maybe give a little bit more to maybe build up better schools or like some type of thing for the homeless, or try to figure out something to help out. Because I mean, $1 billion is a lot. Like, so, but I don't think I would be an evil guy. Like, you know what I mean? That's why it was kind of hard. Like, I know. Go ahead, Mateo. Sorry.
I think of it like the Good Samaritan thing, right? Like, do we have an obligation in society to help other people? And I think that you do. Like, I think that you do. Obviously, it changes depending on your means, right? Like, I could scroll Twitter right now, and I could give to some amount of like assistance funds and things that I see pop up. I could donate to people's GoFundMe's, but I've got a finite amount of money that I could use to do that. But you're talking a billionaire where they could scroll for several days straight, just people tossing money into people's GoFundMe's, and they wouldn't even scratch the surface. It's what we were talking about in like the chat. Like $1 million is a lot of money. $1 million is a life-changing amount of money for a single person and maybe some of their friends and family around them. Like becoming a millionaire. Becoming a billionaire, though, you could change society. You can change the world if you actually decided to give back. And I do think that it is hard to become a billionaire without exploitation of someone, whether it's your workers at Amazon that are having to like piss in bottles and work barely above minimum wage and face all kinds of hardships, and you're sitting there on your mega yacht. Like, I think that there's some level of exploitation there. You talk about like Jay-Z and things like that, like fashion designers. Where are those clothes being made? Are they being made like in Malaysia or something? They're paying children quarters to put together these shoes they're going to sell for $500 to $1,000. Well, because I would guess that there's some amount of exploitation built into that business, into that business as well. It's rife in like the fashion industry, right? Like,
yeah,
that's really not their fault that where they're in Malaysia that it's not expensive though.
It is because they're purposely choosing that location to build their shoes. They could still choose that location. They could pay them a fair wage, wage. Like maybe they are paying them a fair wage comparatively. Like they're making 30 cents an hour compared to 15 cents an hour, but they're still living in poverty. Like there's still exploitation happening there.
Yeah. I remember there was a whole thing with Trump with his tie collection that he had. He has some type of tie thing, and it was outside of the country, and it was like some weird thing. Try to bring it to Mexico, some stupid shit, and it was talking about exporting, those other countries for cheaper work, which a lot of it still kind of happens to this day with a lot of major companies, but it's just like if that class of or the status of that country or wherever they're doing it from is like obviously lower than ours, like could you really honestly say like nah, we're treating them like pieces of shit by giving them this amount because that's what their living standard is, just equally? Like I
would say yes. Like I don't know if you're purposely choosing to go and take advantage of low labor costs in another country. It feels like exploitation to me. It feels like new age colonialism is what it feels like.
Actually, they should get paid American wages, you think?
I don't know. Like maybe you do pay them American wages. Maybe you do pay them more than you could get it cheaper, but why? Like, why would you want to take advantage of other people like that? And I get the reason why. It's because you're a capitalist. You're trying to make as much capital as possible, right? Like that's the name of the game.
I would say you're helping them out by giving them jobs.
You could argue that.
How far do you take that type of mentality though? Like, are you exploiting anybody for shopping around for the cheapest like purchase you can make? Like you're going around the grocery store trying to find the best price for eggs, the best oh no, this steak, like this brand, I'm gonna buy the Walmart peanut butter because that one's cheaper. Like we're all participating in the exploitation, right? Like
for sure,
like by that like definition, I guess. But.
Yeah, I mean for sure. Like y'all ever see The Good Place? Because they talk about some aspect of this. They're like basically like they determine in. These are spoilers for a show that is off the air, so don't come after me in the comments. They determine in The Good Place that no one actually gets into the good place because society's become so complicated now that any decision you make, there is some aspect of it that is probably immoral or unethical. Like you buy tomatoes at the store, it's an undocumented worker that's being abused that picked those tomatoes. So boom, that's a bad act on you. You commit. You're not a good person because you bought those tomatoes. Like it gets tougher with things like that. But when you're the one in charge that's actually making a decision to go to this country specifically because their rate of pay is so low, it takes out some of the muddiness of these decisions that are hard to avoid, you know?
No, for sure. I'm not equating them. I'm just saying there's an analog of like, if I like us on this podcast, right? Well, anytime we're always shopping for the cheapest way to achieve whatever goal we're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, if we were going to hire someone to do work, like we're going to try to hire the cheapest person we could get that could get the job done. Like, I'm fine. I think that's fine. But like, I know there are people that would say that is that's exploiting somebody.
Yeah. Cause we're trying to find the cheap for the same amount of work. So that's why it's
I will say in my business life, I do a lot of the vendor agreements and things like that. And there are companies that are cheaper that I won't go with just because I don't like their product. I don't like the way that I've worked with their sales team. I'd like, there's personal preferences built into things, right? And it's the same thing. Like if we were hiring someone, I don't think it would necessarily be the cheapest. It would be, how do we meet quality and whatever our budget is, right? But if you're talking about someone that's a billionaire, like, your budget is almost non-existent. You're not going to spend all the money that you have. I don't know. It feels like there's a certain point where it's like, okay, you're making $100 million a year, and that's not enough money to be making a year. You need to kick up the exploitation, keep finding cheaper and cheaper ways to produce whatever you're producing. Something about that feels wrong. It's like those kids during Halloween that, there's the bowl. And you knock on the door and they're like, okay, take a few candies, and they take the entire bowl. Something about that feels wrong. Take your part. Leave some for everyone else.
That doesn't feel wrong. Those people are evil. That shit is clearly evil. That's a fucking crime against humanity. Those
you didn't see the white kid that flipped them off.
Like, it's crazy because like I just Googled like, major companies that have like manufacturers outside of the U.S. Nike has a lot of factories over there in Vietnam.
Everybody,
like it's everybody. Everyone. So it's like, what are we gonna do, right? Like, are we gonna tell them, hey, stop, shut it down, and build them here in the USA, and then what? The prices of everything's gonna go up. They're gonna lose money. It sucks, right? I agree with you. It does kind of sucks. They are, but at the same time, it's like we all will start a business to make money. So if you use a little bit of, leverage or exploiting other people to make that money, I don't think you're necessarily bad. You just maybe look like a piece of shit.
I don't know. In our nowhere near billionaire world, my lights just turned off on me.
Oh, you didn't pay your bills because you ain't a billionaire.
But in our very not billionaire world here, like if we were to hire on like an editor, are y'all telling me that we would be fine with paying them minimum wage? You're like, that's cool. We'll pay you minimum wage to do editing on our videos.
If we're billionaires, no.
I wouldn't, but but there is a balance, right? Mm-hmm. There's a range that I think is an acceptable amount of money to make, and I would want to pay them the bottom of that range. Like, right? The least amount I got to pay somebody that I still feel like, okay, they're getting
compensated
paid. They're getting compensated in a fair way. Like, sure, I personally don't want to exploit anybody. But we do, right? Like, in complicated fashion, right? Like the purchases we make and the things we do. There are people in this country that are so against exploitation that they only buy things that were made in ethical they buy only from companies that source things in an ethical way and things like that. And it's like, I don't care enough about that to live my life like that. But
Yo, how do you guys feel about like mega churches and shit like that? You feel like
tax the hell out of them. Tax the hell out of them. Churches should not be exempt from taxes. We should tax churches. A church shouldn't have a private jet.
I don't know enough about why churches are tax exempt and things like that. Like, it feels like they should be taxed, but yeah, I don't know enough. Seeing people like the mega church guy have like a mansion and 12 cars and a private jet and stuff like that, it feels not right. Like, from the perspective of like, your job is to be like taking money to spread the word of God and stuff like that. It just feels a little greedy to be, using all that money to like increase the quality of your life. But
it almost feels like I did the wrong job. Like I picked the wrong job. Like I should have went into the church.
We should have went to the mega church.
Facts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. The eat the rich thing though, like I was saying, like a lot of it just feels very like childish to me. Like I feel like there's a lot of like part of the conversation, like Adam made a statement that I found just like completely absurd, where he said like having an opinion on politics or like the economy is never childish. And again, maybe we got different definitions of childish, but like I find people that have such a shallow understanding of things that they just like, for example, me some number of years ago, right? When I was in college, I was like I wanted Ron Paul. I was like, end the Federal Reserve. All this bullshit is like, those are childish opinions. I didn't understand anything that I was saying. I was just spouting shit that other people were saying, like. That I don't know, the idea that just by virtue of having those opinions, those are not that just feels like a bizarre statement to me. But
The tweak that I would make to it is that I agree with the statement in and of itself, but I also think that you can have a very ignorant position. Like that would be the qualifier. Like, sure, your position's not childish, because the only childish opinion I think when it comes to things like that is just apathy. I think apathy is the truly childish opinion to have on things that literally affect your everyday life. But you can have a non-childish, ignorant opinion. Like that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. About the eat the rich thing though, it just feels like, I feel like there's so many groups of people that have rallied to make change in the country. Like, I feel like any issues on the table for like, if people really care about this, go get the people, raise the money, go, call your congressmen, your senators, all that stuff. Try to like find people that could figure out what bills could help these types of things. Like try to make actual change. But it just feels like, when you're scrolling Twitter, it just feels like everybody's just angry, and they don't care about anything. They just want to express that. And it's like, that's fine to express your anger, I guess. But I don't know. It just doesn't, I can't sit there and be like, yeah, let's just kill all the billionaires. Like I just don't. That doesn't feel right to me. But
I'm not at that point yet. Like, I don't think we need to be out building guillotines or anything like that, because it feels, honestly, just given my my 30 some odd years experience, it feels like we've never really given it a try to change it within the system. Look at how many people in this country don't vote. Look at how many people, how many elections are lost by fractions. And then you look at the percentage, and it's like, oh, well, 80% of people 20 to 28 didn't vote in this election. It's like, you can't skip to let's build guillotines and burn down their mansions if you didn't try to work inside the system first.
And I bet you like 80% of the eat the rich or go to the guillotine people are in that exact age range. I think they're all the young people. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like the other side of like it just feels like the young thing for now. Like when I was in college, it was the Ron Paul, the the Federal Reserve, the anti-war, all that kind of shit because of the Bush era. Like those are the types of the things, and I just feel like this new like socialist, lefty kind of like anti-capitalism thing is like the new. It's like the hip thing for all the college kids or something. I don't know.
There's people saying it's mostly jokes and shit talking, but I think there's a little bit of truth behind it that the younger generation or whatever who say that is like the kids who don't really want to work hard to get where they need to get to. I guess like being handouts. They're like that's a lot of things now. Like a lot of the young kids that come apply for certain jobs, they'll be like, no, I deserve to get paid this because of this, but I don't have any experience. It's like kind of have to start at the bottom to try to get to the top. And a lot of people are saying that that's just the mindset of the younger generation right now.
I haven't seen a lot of that, but that feels like boomer talk to me, is what that feels like. That feels like what every older generation says about the younger generation once they reach some certain age. Actually, funny enough, I was seeing that like apparently millennials are like one of the first generations to buck the trend of becoming more conservative as you get older. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I've gotten more progressive as I've gotten older. I have a lot of. There are probably plenty of topics that, I mean, the people online would say that I'm a Nazi probably, but there's plenty of topics that I have more conservative views on. But yeah, I've definitely gotten more progressive as I've gotten older. Yeah, I don't know. I personally advocate for like trying to change things. Like I feel like we have a system as broken as it is. It's the system we got, and B, it's better than a lot of other systems out there. So it's just like we should really focus our efforts on figuring out what we could do to try to like better the situation. Like you said, we haven't really tried to deal with the billionaire issue. And like, I don't know, is the billionaire issue like a new issue? Like obviously wealth inequality has always been a problem, but like in the last like 40 years, that wealth inequality has like
it's
skyrocketed. It's gotten super crazy.
Yeah, it's gotten significantly bigger. Yeah, it's definitely a new issue. I mean, we're pretty deep into capitalism at this point, right? So like late stage capitalism builds inequality. That's why things like debt relief for middle class and lower class citizens is usually seen as a good use or a good thing to push for in capitalism. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.